Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 58. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Tara Gentile. Tara is a strategist that helps small business owners capitalize on their big ideas. Welcome, Tara.
Thanks so much for having me, Holly.
I'm so excited to be speaking with you today.
Awesome.
I love what you do. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and about how you got into business?
Oh, yes. Well, that's a fun story, I think, for anyone to tell, right? For me, the path to business is in no way a straight line. Liberal arts major in college, or I went to a liberal arts college and focused on one of the most liberal arts areas, which is religion, and have no business education background whatsoever. Wow. But my background in religion was really stemmed from an interest in understanding how other people see the world. And in this kind of social era of business, that intense curiosity about how other people see the world has served me really, really well. And so it's created a very natural path that's led to kind of excelling and both excelling at, but also figuring out what's going on in business today and marketing today, and in how, people like you and me can build these businesses, focusing on communities of people, really small niches, and really fascinate and build up audiences that are interested in what we do in the world. And so that's kind of the really brief story of how I got into business. There was a few other steps, but that, to me, the biggest part of my background and how it fits into the business that I have today.
Oh, wow, I love that because that's totally unexpected.
I know.
So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get to where you are today from where you started out in business?
Sure. So I started my business after my daughter was born, and I quit my job at a Borders Books and Music. I'd been managing a $5 million Borders Books and Music store for 5 years, and it was a pretty thankless job, even though it was a really great environment to work in. And it was, you were working with interesting people. Your customers were really interesting. It was one of those jobs that not everything was firing on all cylinders, even though it had this great potential. And of course, that's probably one of the reasons that Borders Books and Music is not around today.
Wow.
But luckily, I got out before the end, and I was able to more intentionally build a career for myself, build a business for myself from the aftermath of that. And so after quitting that job and, being home with a newborn all the time, I was introduced to this world of online business. And I found it kind of through the craft and maker and art scene, not something that I've ever done, but something I've always been interested in. Mm-hmm. And so I found that scene, and I started seeing all of these amazing women and men creating businesses from nothing, or, creating businesses from their own imaginations, from their own creativity. And I was hooked immediately. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I felt like this could be me. This could be it. This could be where I belong. And so one day my mom called me up on the phone knowing that I was, churning these ideas around, and said, "Hey, I've got an idea for you. Why don't you start a community for artists and crafters in Pennsylvania?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. I could do that. Immediately, I came up with a name. I bought the domain name. In 12 hours, I had a very simple first website built. Picked a launch date, started building the community, and launched the thing. And within a couple months, I had nice traffic. I was, connecting people and producing content and really feeling like this was it. This was all I had ever wanted out of life, was to write and publish and connect people and think about things and advocate for ideas. And I was doing it all by myself for little to no money. And in terms of expense. And so that kind of grew and changed, and it evolved into me taking over another blog, an existing business called Scouty Girl. And I basically did the same thing there, build up the community, build up the traffic, continued writing, continued publishing, advocating for ideas. And eventually it became clear that where my sweet spot was more in the business realm than it was in the craft realm, which if you'd ever seen anything I'd made with my two hands, you would say, Sarah, that's for the best. And so I kind of broke out on my own then, and continued publishing or having other people publish at Scouty Girl, so that it was a business that continued on without me. But that's when I broke out on my own and started using TaraGentile.com as my home base. And my business has just sort of evolved from there. I've experimented with different kinds of offerings, experimented with different kinds of models and how I market myself. And it's grown into what it is today, which is a pretty well-oiled machine that produces a nice amount of revenue and doesn't take a whole lot of work most times of the year to operate. So yeah, that's my journey, and it's been a really fun ride, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
And it sounds like you kind of figured things out from the beginning, because it sounds like from your very first project, you were having really great success, as you said, as far as traffic, building communities. Why do you think that came so easily to you, or did it not come easily? And it just seems that way.
Yeah, no, I would say it came pretty easily. I mean, there's been concepts or, things that I've struggled with over the last 6 years. But the fundamentals of building a community, creating value, offering value, that's come pretty easily. I think it has come down to, since I never had that particular skill or that particular product that I was creating and trying to sell, I've always been trying to figure out what's missing and what do people want. And, wrestling with what the answers to those questions are and attempting to produce it and see what happens. I'm the kind of person that, while I have definite perfectionist tendencies, I'm also really fast and loose with ideas. And so if I have an idea for a piece of content, if I have an idea for a project or some sort of something or other, I'm going to throw it out there and see what happens. And what tends to happen is that, maybe 10 or 20% of those things stick, but that no one remembers the stuff that didn't. And so I end up looking really, really successful. And like, this has been just everything I touch turns to gold, but really everyone forgets about the stuff that's just been led from the beginning, right?
I think that is such an important point, because I think so many people that are just getting started with an online business, especially with blogging, they're really fearful about, if I write this blog post and it's horrible because I'm not a good writer and I'm just getting started. And it's quite, of course you don't have tons of traffic to your website in the very beginning. So you have so much of a margin for error, much more so than most people realize, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's one thing that I don't let any of my clients get away with. Like, you cannot sit on something because it is so precious to you. If it is that precious to you, then let's forget it and move on to something else.
Lock it up in a cabinet and just, move on.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any place in your business. If you're not willing to, as Facebook says, move fast and break stuff, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. So was there a tipping point in your business when things just really started flowing?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many, I feel like, tipping points, things that I didn't see coming, and sometimes things that I did see coming, things that I planned. I'd say one tipping point was breaking out on my own and using my own name as my calling card. And that was definitely a place where I finally felt like I could do what I wanted to do without having to worry about what other people were going to think or what the legacy of the brand was that I was building, which maybe seems a little counterintuitive. But for me, I was really holding a lot of stuff back and coming under my own name allowed me to stop holding things back. I could just be me. And I feel like I'm a pretty cool person. So it wasn't like I had the opportunity to damage a brand. It was me. So if I was going to put something out there and somebody didn't like it, it didn't matter because all I was representing was me. And so they probably shouldn't be hanging around me to begin with. And then I think another tipping point in my business was the development of the program that's kind of my signature program now, which is called 10,000 Feet. And that's been the culmination of all the business strategy and coaching and consulting that I've done over the years, kind of put together into a comprehensive business strategy program. And for me, it wasn't so much that it was this like magical thing that, I put it out there and made thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars right away. It was that starting it, just giving it that little push, because I didn't start with a big launch for this. It was something that I beta tested behind closed doors, and then I released it behind closed doors, and then I launched it internally, and then I launched it internally again. And there's still lots of people who don't know about it. But it was the beginning of that program that has put my business on the trajectory that it's on right now. And that trajectory is fast and upward and awesome. And so it was just that little thing. It was a very, very small tipping point, but it's probably been one of the things that has been most positive in my business over the last 6 years.
Oh, and how long ago did you launch 10,000 Feet?
About 19 months ago.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And how's that going for you? How has that changed since you first launched it?
Oh, man. So the initial concept behind it was not only that it was going to be a program that I could develop for business owners, but that it was going to be a program that I could use to train business coaches or prospective business strategists. Mm-hmm. And so I worked on the program for 16, 18 months before I offered it to business coaches for the first time. And so that initial 18 months was all about, creating the content, learning what the best formats for delivering things were, learning how I could work with people in a leveraged fashion, because essentially what it is one-on-one coaching in a leveraged environment. Yeah. And so it's a really fun kind of hybrid model of a lot of different things. And so there was a lot that I had to figure out in the process of it. I couldn't know how it was going to work out from the beginning. I just had to dive in and do it. And so it was just this sort of gradual evolution of the program until this summer when I started coaching business coaches on how to use the tools and how to use the concepts in it to work with their own clients. And then this fall, we're going to do our first public launch. So the program itself has already done well into the 6 figures with basically just internal launches. Mm. And then this next fall, we're basically planning to double what we've done so far in revenue as we launch the program publicly and kind of in a bigger format.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. It's a good time to be working in my business right now.
So tell us a little bit more about your program, because from what I could see on your website, that's a really robust looking program.
Yeah, it's basically designed to be, like I said, one-on-one coaching in a leveraged environment. And the whole point of that is that, one of the major places I was seeing my one-on-one clients falling down was not that they didn't have good information, not that they weren't making good progress on whatever it was that we were working on, whether it was a new product or a marketing campaign or branding, but they weren't connecting with the other people that they needed to make their business really, really tick, really flow.
So like joint venture partners.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, even just support, yes. Like that moral support that we all need to keep our businesses flowing. What I was seeing was clients really trying to operate in a bubble. I was like, there has got to be a better way to work with these people. And, there's one-on-one coaching is great and it certainly has its place, but I thought I could do better. I could create something that fixed this problem. And so 10,000 Feet is essentially that. So it's everything and more really that I would work work a one-on-one client through. So everything from, reviewing your current business model to planning a new business model, to reviewing old products to planning new products, creating marketing campaigns, thinking about your branding, thinking about your positioning, all of this different stuff. But it's done in a group of 15 other people, or this fall it's going to be done in a group of 40 other people, so that you have these super close, intimate connections with other people who are doing the exact same thing as you. So whether you're a life coach and you really need to hook up with a web designer, or whether you're a product designer and you really need to hook up with someone who can help you see a different angle on your marketing, that happens in this program just by virtue of how it's set up. And it's not even so much about like creating referrals within the network. It's just people coming together and helping each other and being that moral support, being the feedback that they need. And so it creates a really, really beautiful environment. It's completely online, but we actually had our first group, kind of our first in-person event with some 10,000 Feet alum a couple months ago. And it was so amazing to watch everybody come together so quickly, because they all shared this experience. Even when they were in different groups, they kind of knew each other already. And so all we really had to do was create a space for it. And then they took off. And, most of them, I didn't even see the whole weekend because they were just all around town. I'm going to go have lunch with this person, and then this group is going to go hang out. And I just kind of got to watch it and think, wow, this is so wonderful. So that's really what the program is all about. I know that doesn't really describe the content of it at all, but for me, that's one of the most valuable parts is, yes, you get feedback from me. Yes, you get to learn these concepts that I've been working on for years, but really you get to be part of a part of this community, a part of this space that's really what makes a business work well.
I agree. And I think that's so important that you've called that out, because oftentimes I have joined courses, not so much because I was interested in the course material, but because I knew that there would be a community around that material.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I trusted the person who had created this environment to create the kind of community that I wanted to be a part of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what I find too is that the people who join that group are a very particular kind of person. I mean, they're my ideal customers, right? And they're my ideal clients. And I've been very intentional about that. It's something that's very important to me. But what's great about it is because I'm so intentional about it, then that means that people are really at ease when they enter that community, because they know they're going to be in a group of extremely like-minded people. They're not just going through the same content. They are very similar people. These are people they would want to hang out with, business or not, if they knew each other. So yeah, so it creates a really, really cool dynamic.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing about that program, because I was wondering about it, because I was going through the website and was thinking, ooh, this sounds very, very interesting. So
Awesome.
How long is that program run? Is it an ongoing thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, the program itself is 4 months long.
Okay.
The way I've always run my business is once you're a part of a family, you're part of that family forever. So people kind of continue, going through the program, learning through new content as we bring new content out. But the meat of the program is a 4-month program. We do 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So it's kind of, you're not totally overwhelmed by everything. My partner on the program, Bridget Lyons, works with people on media strategy. And so we try and bring a lot of different things together so that by the end of the program, you really do have that kind of 10,000 foot or 30,000 foot view of your business, so that it's not just the day-to-day stuff that you're working on, kind of slogging through ongoing, but it's really building the big picture view of your business over 4 months.
I think that is such an important thing to focus on, because it's so easy to just get your head stuck up in your business and get stuck on the day-to-day stuff and, get really good at moving through tasks. But it can be so difficult to step back and get that perspective on your business that's really good. It's what's really going to help you be successful on a long-term basis.
Right. And the other problem that happens there is that business owners get really reactive instead of getting proactive. And so my biggest goal for everyone is that by the end of the program, they feel like they're making proactive decisions for their business instead of just reacting to what comes through the inbox every day, or reacting to, the big bill that they weren't expecting, or reacting to a breakup of a business relationship, or whatever it might be. set yourself up to not just react to the day-to-day tasks, but to really direct the action. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between, maybe how a CEO operates at a corporation and how, the average micro business entrepreneur is reacting in their own business or what they're doing in their own business. And I think this is an opportunity for us to act much more like CEOs and much less like glorified freelancers.
Exactly. So what would you say are your top tips on how to get that big picture perspective on your business?
Oh man, yes. Probably my biggest tip here is to really understand how the different parts or the different offers within your business work together. And I like to relate this to thinking about your body, because your body is, it functions together as one, but within your body, there are multiple different systems, right? There's a nervous system, circulatory system, respiratory system, adrenal system. And if any one of those systems starts to break down or function improperly, we get sick. And this is what happens in our businesses all the time, but we don't recognize it that way. We just say, oh, my business isn't working right. And then we go off and we try and fix something that may or may not be broken, instead of looking and seeing, okay, which of the individual systems, which of the individual offers isn't working properly. And even better than that, when you're really looking at the big picture view of your business, you start thinking about how to optimize those systems. So just like we optimize our body, we'll go on a special diet, or we'll go, we'll train for a marathon, and we really look at those things that are going to optimize each and every system in our body. We can do the exact same thing with our business. And so I break that down for myself in kind of a business model plan where I'm looking at the data on each offer that I have on the table and what it takes to keep that offer running, and the pricing and who I'm reaching with it and how I'm marketing with it. But there's other things you can do as well. Like my friend and one of my apprentices, Natasha Vorompiova from Systems That Rock, she really focuses more on administrative systems. And so there's all those systems in your business that you can optimize and examine as well. But you have to kind of start from the outside and look in and figure out what's going on in there that's causing the outside results that you have. And then I think the other really good tip for thinking about your business from a more 10,000 foot view is really understanding how your business is positioned, and not only understanding it, but being intentional about the way you choose to position your business. I think positioning is one of the most overlooked parts of marketing to begin with. And really all positioning is how other people perceive your business. How do they relate to your business? Who do they relate to your business? So what other businesses in your market are your customers perceiving you as being related to? And I think more often than not, business owners are kind of allowing their positioning to come from some sort of default mode, right? Or they feel kind of backed into a corner around how their business is perceived. But there's nothing default about it. Every story that you tell about your business is a choice. And so you can choose to position your business the way it is going to be best for you. And there's all sorts of different ways you can do that. You can position yourself on the low end, on the high end, on the, experience side, on the transactional side. However you want to position your business is fair game, but you have to be intentional about it.
Yes. And I think a lot of people just they're not aware of it. They're not taking conscious action to position their business in a particular way. They're just doing stuff, and then it just kind of gets positioned in a way. Exactly.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest places people can improve. And so, how do you improve the story you're telling? How do you improve your positioning? You examine all the little details. Stories are all about the details, right? So, you look at your logo, you look at your about page, you look at the products you have on the shelf, you look at their prices, you look at the testimonials that you have on your site, you look at the events that you go to, and you think about, what is each of these details really telling people about my business? And most importantly, are those details consistent? Is my logo telling the same story that my about page is telling? Is my about page telling the same story that my products are telling? Are my products telling the same story my prices are telling? And if you work to really make that consistent, I think you can make any kind of positioning work. But that consistency is what makes people comfortable. It makes them feel like they really understand what it is that you do and how you do it. And it's what makes people feel relaxed about buying from you as well, or one of the things that makes people feel relaxed about buying from you. So positioning is just so important.
I love that. I love that because I think branding seems to be kind of this, or positioning seems to be this kind of big, confusing thing for a lot of people. But really, if you think about other brands, whether it's food brands or clothing brands, it's just a way of knowing what you can expect from that company.
Exactly. And, that's where so many people run into problems, is that their customers don't know what to expect from them. And so they released this new great product, but nobody was expecting it, not because of marketing, but because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the story that you've been telling so long. And so people don't know what to do with it. They might get really excited about it, but they're not going to buy it. And that's such a frustrating problem. And positioning is such a big part of it.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was very juicy. So can you tell us a little more about how other women in business can benefit from working with you? Because you've got a couple of different offerings.
Yeah, 10,000 feet is kind of the big, intensive coaching program. But I also have a microbusiness community called Kickstart Labs. And that's sort of like my catch-all resource library. So basically, any product I've ever created is in there. Plus, we're creating new content for it all the time. But probably the biggest benefit of it is just being in a group, as I said, with like-minded people who are working toward the same kind of goals that you are. And, getting answers to questions or getting feedback on sales pages. And it comes from me, sure. And that's what people think they love paying for. But what they find out they really love paying for is being in a group of other entrepreneurs. It's not about me, but it's about everybody else, right? But yeah, and just kind of the benefits of working with me or going through my programs tends to be a much more strategic view of your business. Instead of chasing tactic after tactic or formula after formula, what I am really focused on for all of my clients and all of my customers is giving them a strategic understanding of their business, so that instead of me having to teach a new tactic every few months, instead they can think about what they know about their business and what they know about the market, and they can create their own tactics. They can create their own formulas. They can figure out what works for them and their customers and the conversation that they're a part of. And I think that's what makes my positioning and my business and the way and the ideas that I put out into the world different from the rest of my market. I'm really focused on that strategic angle and empowering business owners to figure things out for themselves based on the strategy that they've created for themselves.
Oh, I love that. Can you tell us a little bit also about your book, The Art of Earning?
Yeah, The Art of Earning is 3 years old now, or is it 4 years old? It might be 4 years old. It's still one of the products that I think I'm most well known for. And it's an ebook all about my own kind of money story and my changing money story. But it's also, I think, the story of so many other people's money stories, and how our mindsets about money need to shift as we step into our entrepreneurial shoes. And so kind of going from a minimum wage mindset to going to an abundance mindset, and all the challenges that come in between that, whether it's why would somebody pay me for the work I do? Why would someone pay me more for the work that I do? Why is this valuable? How am I creating value for other people? And then other things like, is it okay to ask for more money? Is it morally okay? How do I think about not being afraid to lose money? How do I think about expenses and investing? And it's a book of little essays all about those questions that we inevitably have when we start becoming responsible for our own livelihoods.
I love that. Completely different perspective, making money as a business owner compared to making money as an employee. It's just a whole different ballgame.
It is. And it's a mindset shift that you have to make. And if you don't make it, your business won't work. And it's a really empowering mindset shift. You go from getting that paycheck every week, which sure feels kind of stable and secure. Although, in the book, in The Art of Earning, I refer to it as a paycheck prison. You kind of get addicted to the paycheck, right? You come to rely on it in a way that is not necessarily healthy for your own.
Sorry.
No, well, just for your own freedom and independence. It's not healthy to be relying on that, weekly hit of money, right?
And it's a false sense of security because, of course, you're also relying on that company to run the business well and to not get itself into the trouble where the point where it's going to need to downsize and get rid of you.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, we've got the entrepreneurial money mindset, which is really about creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
If you can create value, you can sell value and get money in exchange. And anytime you need money, anytime you want money, there is a way for you to create value and bring in that revenue. And it's an incredibly freeing concept when you really start seeing how it works and feeling into it and creating the confidence you need around that idea. That there's nothing that's out of reach for you, whether it's a vacation or whether it's an employee or whether it's a new baby. There's always something more available to you because you always have the ability to create new value or deliver new value to customers. And that's where revenue comes from.
Thank you so much for that. Now, Tara, do you have any business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Absolutely. There's so many women in business that inspire me. One of my kind of perennial business mentors is the founder of DailyWorth. Her name is Amanda Steinberg, and DailyWorth is an amazing daily financial education email for women, essentially. It's all about getting right with money, planning for your money, making money, negotiating about money. They cover pretty much everything, spending money, of course, too. And Amanda is just a really brilliant business mind. And she's coached me through a lot of my own money problems. And she's inspired me to think bigger and to think outside of the box. And we just have a really great relationship. And then two other women I want to mention who are kind of mentors of mine from afar. They may not really know that I think of them as mentors, although one might. The first is, her name is Nilofer Merchant. She wrote a book 2 years ago called 11 Rules for Creating Value in the Social Era. It was my favorite business book of 2012. And then I just decided to say it was also my favorite book of 2013 because it was the book that I kept coming back to over and over and over again. And so I devour everything she writes on her blog. I devour every video she puts out. She works on corporate strategy. So she's not in this kind of micro business community, but the things that she's putting out into the world are just a really accessible, relevant set of ideas about really thinking about what business means, what commerce means in what she calls the social era, this world that we're living in where we're all so hyper connected and where we influence each other all the time. And then the third woman is Sally Hogshead, who created the Fascination Advantage system. And the Fascination Advantage system is fascinating in its own right. But I also just love the way she's built the business around this idea and around her services. And so she has a very multifaceted business everywhere from corporate workshops and consulting all the way down to, just best-selling books and, these $39 tests. And I love how expansive her business model is. And so I watch her very closely to see, okay, where are you taking your business next? What new interesting thing are you going to put out into the world that's going to give me an idea for something I can incorporate into my own business?
Excellent. This is some great women to check out.
Yeah.
So, Tara, where can people find you online?
So the best place to find me online is just at taragentili.com. And then the other place that I hang out most is on Twitter. And I love hearing from people on Twitter. So it's a great place, if you've got a question, if you want to learn about something, if there's even just something in your own business that's troubling you, feel free to tweet me. It's definitely the place that I am most accessible. And I'm just at Tara Gentili.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP58 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.